In 2017, Netflix unveiled Mindhunter, a series crafted with the kind of obsessive detail and psychological depth rarely seen on television. Backed by the real FBI profiler who inspired Silence of the Lambs, and David Fincher's relentless perfectionism, demanding up to 75 takes for a single scene. Critics saw it as a masterpiece. Behind the scenes, the show became a battleground of creative ambition versus impossible budgets. So what happened to Mindhunter? And why did this revolutionary drama vanish just as it was poised to redefine true crime storytelling? The story of Mindhunter begins long before Netflix ever rolled the cameras. In 1995, John E. Douglas published his memoir, Mindhunter, inside the FBI's elite serial crime unit. Douglas wasn't just another retired agent with stories to tell. He was the real-life pioneer behind the FBI's criminal profiling program, a man whose research shaped the way America understands serial killers. His work inspired characters like Jack Crawford in Silence of the Lambs, and left its fingerprints all over modern crime fiction. But it took a certain kind of filmmaker to see the potential for something deeper. David Fincher, already known for films like Seven and Zodiac, joined forces with Charlize Theron to bring Douglas's world to television. Fincher insisted on creative control and a deliberate pace, pushing Netflix to take a chance on a show that didn't fit the usual streaming formula. The result was a series that demanded attention, patience, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. Mindhunter wasn't just adapted from a book. It was built on the bones of real cases, real interviews, and the obsessive energy of the people who studied them. Pittsburgh, with its old brick buildings and winding streets, became the stand-in for a dozen American cities. But transforming it wasn't just about swapping out a few street signs. Set builders constructed entire office blocks from archival FBI blueprints. Costume designers hunted for vintage cigarette packs, period-correct neckties, and even the right style of eyeglasses. On set, the pressure was relentless. Actors and crew braced themselves for marathon days that could stretch to 12 hours, sometimes spent on a single scene. Fincher was famous for pushing his cast through 20, 40, even 75 takes, each one chasing a slightly different shade of tension or vulnerability. Cameramen rigged custom red cameras and period lenses. Lighting teams spent hours adjusting for the perfect shadow, and sound techs waited for the precise cadence Fincher wanted. Crew members have described the process as both exhilarating and exhausting. Mindhunter was never a cheap show to make. By the time Season 2 rolled out, production costs had soared to a reported $20 million per episode. That number puts it in the same league as Netflix's biggest blockbusters. Except Mindhunter wasn't pulling in the same kind of crowd. While Stranger Things and The Crown racked up hundreds of millions of hours watched and climbed the top 10 charts, Mindhunter's audience was more selective, more niche. The show's meticulous approach, custom camera rigs, period-accurate sets, endless takes, demanded a budget that rivaled feature films. But Netflix isn't just in the business of making art for art's sake. Behind the scenes, executives were tracking every metric. How many people started a season? How many finished it? How often viewers came back for more? For Mindhunter, the numbers just didn't add up. Industry insiders say the cost per viewer was at least double that of Netflix's other high-budget originals. Even with glowing reviews and a 97% Rotten Tomatoes score, the show never became the global sensation its price tag demanded. Netflix's formula is simple. The bigger the budget, the bigger the expected audience. When a prestige drama eats up resources but doesn't drive new subscriptions or keep millions glued to their screens, the math gets hard to justify. That's the cold reality that haunted Mindhunter, no matter how perfect each frame looked. January 2020 brought a quiet but unmistakable end to Mindhunter's future. Netflix formally released the main cast, Jonathan Groff, Holt McCallany, and Anna Torv, from their contracts, a move that industry watchers recognized as the show's point of no return. There was no dramatic announcement, no last-minute reprieve, just a simple lapse of options that made it clear. Season 3 was off the table. For the actors, it was a blow. Groff later said he would have dropped everything if Fincher called him back, but the call never came. Instead, the director turned his attention to a new project, Mank, pouring his energy into a black-and-white Hollywood story that demanded just as much control, but on a schedule he could live with. The silence around Mindhunter grew thicker as 2020 turned into 2021. Fans held out hope for a surprise renewal, but behind the scenes, the machinery had stopped. It wasn't until early 2023 that Fincher finally spoke plainly. In an interview with the French magazine Premiere, he confirmed what many suspected. It's a very expensive show, and in the eyes of Netflix, we didn't attract enough of an audience to justify such an investment. The decision was final. There would be no Season 3, no long-promised showdown with the BTK killer, no return to the shadowy hallways of Quantico. For everyone involved, it was the end of a long, exhausting chapter, and the beginning of Mindhunter's life as an unfinished legend. Mindhunter's story didn't end with its cancellation. If anything, the show's disappearance only made its devoted community louder. Fans didn't just move on, they organized. Online petitions calling for a third season have gathered tens of thousands of signatures, with new ones cropping up every time Fincher gives an interview. Subreddits and Discord servers buzz with theories, scene breakdowns, and wishful casting for the BTK arc that never happened. Even now, years after the final episode dropped, you can find threads dissecting every cold open, every shadowy detail, hoping for some hidden clue. The show's critical acclaim plays its own part. Mindhunter still sits at a towering 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, a number most series only dream of. That kind of score keeps the legend alive, fueling debates and listicles about the best shows canceled too soon. For many, Mindhunter isn't just a series, it's unfinished business, a case file left open, and a reason to keep hoping for one more chapter. Mindhunter's unfinished business lingers in the shadows, thanks in large part to the BTK killer. For 2 seasons, cold opens dropped us into the quiet horror of Dennis Rader's double life. A mustached man fixing security systems, sketching out twisted fantasies, and slipping away before anyone could connect the dots. He never spoke a word, but the promise was clear. This was building toward something. Rumors swirled that Season 3 would have finally brought BTK front and center, alongside notorious names like Bundy and Dahmer. Instead, the story froze in place, leaving viewers haunted by the sense of a case left unsolved. The show's influence didn't just fade, it rippled out, fueling a new wave of true crime dramas and podcasts eager to chase the same chill. When Netflix released the cast from their contracts in January 2020, the fate of Mindhunter was sealed. David Fincher, who directed 7 episodes himself and demanded up to 75 takes per scene, later confirmed the show was too expensive for the audience it had. While Mindhunter achieved a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and inspired a devoted fan base, its high production costs, reportedly over $20 million per episode, outweighed its viewership in Netflix's internal calculations. No official viewership numbers or unaired scripts have been released, leaving the full scope of planned storylines, including the BTK arc, unknown. What remains clear is that Mindhunter set a new bar for authenticity in crime drama, influencing both the true crime genre and public interest in criminal psychology. The series' abrupt end underscores the reality that creative ambition alone cannot guarantee survival in the streaming era.